So guys, it's been a little bit over a month since I've actually got my hands on the A7S III, and during that time I've been able to use it on a multiple amount of projects, as well as just free range shooting and just going out and shooting with the camera in general. And one of the first things that I did notice when I started setting up this camera and during shooting multiple projects is that this camera offers 3 different recording formats. And in this video I want to go over the 3 different recording formats, as well as go over which one might be best for you and which one that I'm currently using and plan on using in the future with the A7S III. Now guys, there's going to be 3 recording formats when it comes to using the Sony A7S III that you'll be able to choose from, and that's going to be XAVC HS, XAVC S, and then XAVC S-I. And then the XAVC S is going to be able to allow you to record in not only 4K but also in the 1920 by 1080. And then the XAVC S-I is also going to offer you the same capability in recording into 4K as well as recording into 1920 by 1080. The XAVC HS is only going to allow you to record into 4K, and we'll go ahead and get into that in more detail moving on into this video. So I'm sure you guys are wondering which recording format is going to be the best option, just like how I did when I first got this camera and started testing it out. So let's go ahead and cover that, and for my answer it's going to be a 2-parter, so let's go ahead and cover that right now. Now guys, the first part of my answer is going to be which option is going to give you the best quality with the lowest file size and least amount of headache during post-production when you go to actually import this footage into your editing software and get into the editing process. And for this answer, it is going to be XAVC S. That is going to be the middle option between XAVC HS and XAVC S-I. Now for the recording setting in the actual XAVC S option, you're going to want to choose the highest option possible, and that is going to be the 100M 422 10-bit option. Doesn't matter if you're shooting in the 24-bit, the 30 frames per second, or the 60 frames per second, you're going to want to choose the highest option possible, which is going to be the 100M 422 10-bit. And that is obviously because when you want to shoot in 422 10-bit, it's giving you the most color depth and color range in the actual camera, as opposed to the older Sony cameras that only would allow you to shoot in 420 8-bit. Now the second part to this answer is which one is going to be the best overall option out of these 3, and which one I'll be using for my actual projects moving forward, and that is going to be the XAVC S-I option in both 4K and the HD option, which is the 1920 by 1080. So when it comes to the actual recording format in the XAVC S-I 4K and HD option, you don't have an option or a choice on what you want to record in like the XAVC S option, where you can go from 10-bit down to 8-bit. Because you're recording in XAVC S-I, which is the least compressed file, they pick the option for you, which is going to be the highest option possible. So when you're recording in 24 frames per second in the XAVC S-I 4K option, that is going to record in 240M 422 10-bit, and when you record in 30 frames per second, it's going to record at 300M 422 10-bit, and when you record in 60 frames per second for your slow motion clips, it's going to record in 600M 422 10-bit. Now if I do want to shoot in a higher frame rate, which is going to be the 120 frames per second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the XAVC S-I option because I do not offer the 120 frames per second, and the option I'm going to choose is the XAVC S option, and that is going to be for any clips that I want to shoot in the 120 frames per second, because the A7S III does now offer 4K at 120 frames per second. So if I want to shoot any higher frame rates, 120 frames per second, it will be shot in the XAVC S option. Now guys, before we dive into each recording format, I do want to quickly go over the difference between the all intra option and the long GOP option. I want to be able to break that down to you guys real quick and briefly explain that, because a lot of people don't understand what those 2 options are. And these 3 recording formats, one of them actually shoots in the all intra option and 2 of them shoot in the long GOP option. So let's quickly go over that and explain that before we break down each of the 3 recording formats. Now the 2 recording formats that are going to shoot in the long GOP is going to be both the XAVC HS and the XAVC S. The only option that's going to shoot in the all intra compression is going to be the XAVC S-I. So when it comes to the recording formats, 2 of them, which is going to be the first 2 on your actual menu, is going to shoot in long GOP, and then the XAVC S-I in both 4K and HD are what is shooting in the all intra compression. Now let's let's talk about all-in or all-intra compression real quick. All-in or all-intra is recording every frame and it's separating each frame from the other. So it's capturing the whole image and it's capturing each frame by frame. And the easiest way to simplify this or to break this down is it's a series of JPEG images, because when we think of 24 frames per second, just think about it in photo terms. It's 24 images compiled together, which makes 1 second of one image. Now, long GOP is different than all-in or all-intra because long GOP actually stands for group of pictures. So with a long GOP codec, only certain frames are recorded individually, and this codec only records changes in the image from one frame to the next rather than the whole image. So this is why the long GOP formats are smaller in size compared to the all-in formats. So for the type of work that I do, whether it be for music videos, documentaries, vlogs, travel videos for the artists that I work with, I'm shooting a lot of content with dealing with subjects that are moving at a fast pace. And because the type of content that I shoot, the option that's going to be best for me is shooting in the all-in option as opposed to the long GOP option. So for the type of content you could get away with shooting long GOP, you could be shooting subjects or objects that aren't moving a lot and that you're not trying to get the best amount of detail out of. That's the kind of content you want to shoot in long GOP. Now, when it comes to, again, the type of objects or subjects or material that you want to get the best details and definition out of and you want to get the best quality out of, because it's recording all in and it's recording the whole image as a whole, again, you want to shoot in the all-in, all-intra option compression when it comes to shooting with the Sony A7S III. Now, if you do try to film certain objects, places, or things or people that are moving around fast or sporadically in the long GOP option, you will notice that the footage will start to break apart and not be as clear and have as much clarity and detail as opposed to if you did shoot in the all-in compression rate. So again, this is why for certain things you want to shoot in long GOP and you can get away with it, but personally, for the type of content that I shoot, I will be shooting in the all-intra option. And again, that only option is offered with the XAVC S-I option. So now that we've covered the all-I versus the long GOP option, let's go ahead and break down each one of these three recording formats that the Sony A7S III does offer in this camera. Now, the first option on your menu screen is going to be the XAVC HS, which is one of the newest additions to the Sony line and the Sony A7S III. So let's go ahead and break this down first. Now, the XAVC HS 4K option is going to offer you better quality at the same file size data rate that the XAVC S option would offer. However, the only difference is going to be that the XAVC HS is recording in an H.265 compression, while the XAVC S and the XAVC S-I is recording in an H.264 compression. So this is why I said in the beginning of the video that the best quality with the lowest file size and the least amount of headache is going to be the XAVC S. But if you want the best quality with the lowest file size and you don't care about headaches during post-production, then the XAVC HS option is going to be for you. But because it is recording in an H.265 long GOP compression, what that means is when you bring this into your editing software, most computers are not going to be able to handle shooting and editing this kind of footage natively in your editing software. You're probably going to have to proxy this footage. Me personally, when I brought this into the computer that I use that is able to handle 4K footage from Red, 6K footage from Red, 8K footage from Red, and I'm able to edit this footage without proxying it, anytime I've had to bring in an H.265 compression into this editing software on my computer, I've had to proxy the footage. So keep that in mind when you're using the XAVC HS option. Yes, it does offer you better quality at the same size file rate that the XAVC S would offer, but it is going to be more of a headache in your editing process when you go to bring this footage in to edit. But I will say that the projects that I've shot on, when I have shot in both XAVC HS and XAVC S, even pixel peeping and really looking at the footage, I didn't notice a high enough difference to be able to constitute shooting in the XAVC S option and spending that extra amount of time and headache proxying the footage. And when you start to shoot videos and projects that are requiring more space and long shooting times, what you don't want to have to deal with is spending a lot of time in the post-production process, proxying footage and dealing with all that headache and then putting it back into regular format. So Keep that in mind when you're shooting in the XAVC HS. It is going to be the hardest file and recording format to deal with out of these three options. Now moving on to the XAVC S option, whether that be in 4K and HD, this is the recording format that all of the previous Sony cameras did offer when it came to the recording format to shoot in. The newest addition to this standard recording format that all Sony cameras did previously offer is now that instead of just being an 8-bit, this camera does now offer the 10-bit 422 option in XAVC S. Now the XAVC S 4K and HD is the other recording format that is using the long GOP. However, instead of the H.265 compression like the XAVC HS offers, the XAVC S 4K and HD shoots in the H.264 compression. So guys, the XAVC S recording format is going to be best for the people that know they're going to have a lot of recording time when they're shooting on this camera, and they don't want to spend a lot of money when it comes to buying memory cards as well as buying storage space for having to actually store the files that are going to be dumped from this camera. So with the XAVC S, this is going to be the best option for the best quality with the lowest file size and the least amount of headache when it comes to post-production. So an example of a project that you would want to shoot in this format would be a wedding filmmaker, because when it comes to shooting weddings, you're on set all day, and in most cases you're not going to have a lot of time to sit there and dump your footage. So you want the best quality with the lowest file size, and then obviously you want to get this project back to the client at a reasonable rate, so you don't want to have to spend a lot of time in post-production dealing with proxies and again dealing with headaches in the actual editing process. So this would be a great format for a wedding filmmaker or even a documentary worker. Now let's get into the last recording format that is offered on the A7S III, and that is going to be the newest addition, which is going to be the XAVC S-I 4K and HD option. Now the XAVC S-I is the other newest addition to the Sony recording formats. The XAVC S-I offers 4K and HD recording formats, just like the XAVC S option offers. So the XAVC S-I 4K and HD option is going to be the only one of the recording formats that offers the all intra compression, and that is specifically made to be the best for when you go to edit your project. Now the trade-off of shooting in this format and it offering not only the best quality but the best editing experience is because it is shooting at a less compressed rate as opposed to the XAVC HS and the XAVC S. You're going to have the most file size when shooting in this recording format, and this is going to take up more of your memory card, which will then take up more of your storage space. So it's a trade-off. You get the best quality and the best editing experience shooting in the XAVC S-I option, but this will be the most storage space that you'll have to deal with when you're shooting in this recording format. So without getting too technical and too nerdy on you guys, just remember this for future cameras, and whatever camera you use or whatever recording formats they offer, whatever recording format has the least compression on it is going to take up the most space on your memory card, and which will then take up the most space on your hard drives. That's the easiest way to think about things when you go to shooting recording formats is the least compressed means the biggest file sizes. The more compressed is usually going to be smaller file sizes. And this is why the XAVC S-I is going to be the biggest file size compared to the XAVC S and the XAVC HS, because the XAVC S and the XAVC HS are way more compressed as opposed to the XAVC S-I, which is least compressed compared to those other two. So now that we've covered all three recording formats in depth and we've explained the difference between ALL-I and long GOP, this, guys, is why I had a two-part answer to which recording format you should be using when you're using your A7S III. Again, if you want the best quality for the lowest file size and the least amount of headache, you're gonna wanna use the XAVC S option. If you want the best quality with the lowest file size and you don't care about the editing headaches and the proxies and the whole post-production workflow that you're gonna have to deal with, XAVC HS will be the better option compared to XAVC S. If you guys are going to want the best all-around quality out of this camera, that option is going to be the XAVC S-I option in both 4K and HD. Now just keep in mind when you use the XAVC S-I option, that is going to give you the biggest file sizes, but that is going to be the best quality out of this camera. And last but not least, guys, no matter which one of these options you choose to record in, when it comes to the recording format in these options, I would always go with the highest option possible, which is going to be the 422 10-bit option. I hope this video did help you out, guys. If you are new to this channel, my name is Joe Moore and I am a content creator and photographer. Here on this channel, I focus on making a lot of tutorials, reviews, and other helpful content centered around improving your visuals, whether you're a beginner or you've been in the game for years. I also do make vlogs and other fun related content outside of the reviews and the tutorials on this channel. So guys, as always, if you did find this video helpful, please do me a favor and like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure to click the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the content that is releasing on this channel. Until next time, guys, stay safe, keep creating, and I'll see you soon.